Hello, I'm Father George Salzman of the Harvard Catholic Center. We're here in St. Paul's Church at the corner of Bow and Arrow in Harvard Square, and behind me is the prophet Isaiah, holding the scroll, as it were, from which Christ read in this past Sunday's Gospel. This past Sunday's Gospel gave us the initiation, the very first verses of the Gospel of Luke, then switched forward to Christ's initiation, his beginning to speak in his own synagogue there in Nazareth. And the words he spoke were words from the prophet Isaiah. And the words, I think, are very familiar to us from year to year. Glad tidings to the poor, liberty to captives, recovery of sight to the blind, and that the oppressed go free. It sounds almost like Pope Francis concerned for people who are ostracized, or people in the margins or in the periphery, doesn't it? Very much like that. Well, you know, this past week we had the March to Washington, and it has the same message of people at the periphery and endangered and not cared about. So that certainly has the same view. And it's amazing to see that was at the top of the New York Times front page, which was a novelty. In the Globe this past Sunday, there's a perennial feature every week, a weekly feature. And that's Sunday's Child, which is, in a sense, talking about the same thing, which always brings tears to my eyes. And it's of a child in foster care hoping to be adopted, hoping to have that stability of a home and care and loving. And heartbroken to read it, but I'm also just heartened every week to think of the good foster families, and all the more so to those who adopt. And certainly that should be, if we're thinking of life from beginning to end and all the way through the middle, that should be one of our causes. Also, the idea of a living wage should be part and parcel. This coming Friday, the 20th of January, it's a 450th birthday for a woman who was the founder of a great family, the Visitation Order, and she's St. Jane de Chantal. She founded it together with St. Frances de Sales. It was a great influence in her life, and she and the lives of so many others. Jane de Chantal is a marvelous patron for women to have, because they tell me, because she had, in a sense, every role. She was single, then she was married, happily married, then the Baron, her husband, was killed in a hunting accident, and so she was left there with the kids, so she was a mother. And then for various reasons she had to stay with her father-in-law, and he had a mistress living there. And the father-in-law was difficult, the mistress was even more difficult. She was there raising her kids, and she knew all that trouble, so she's a patroness for people dealing in difficult situations, to say the least, and a powerful one there. And then she, as life went on and she got her freedom and stuff, and the children left the nest, she met St. Francis de Sales, and they together founded the Order of the Visitation. If you think of the Georgetown Visitation, for instance, would be a good example that many people know. And then she founded that with him, and they envisioned something new in the church. What they wanted was, in that time, the orders of women were mainly involved in asceticism, and it could be extreme, the cold, the poverty, and so on, as their witness. But on the other hand, she was concerned about people of moderate strength and or older who might find that very difficult. And they together decided to do a new thing, which accepted a broader group of women, and above all, that they would serve the sick and the poor in the cities. And so that went very well. That went swimmingly for a while, until various church authorities or archbishops called them to question, saying women had to be cloistered behind walls, behind bars, and so on. So that then it came to pass that was suspended. However, Francis de Sales appointed a young priest as chaplain to the Visitation Convent in Paris, and his name was St. Vincent de Paul. And so I guess you get the idea that in the next generation of the church, the idea of St. Jane triumphed in the foundation of the Daughters of Charity, with their marvelous orphanages and their marvelous hospitals and their intervention for the good in so many things outside the walls in the world. May they prosper, and may we think of St. Jane and St. Vincent de Paul and St. Louise and Francis de Sales as well. May God bless you.